Excellent. All right. So I asked the other day, I posted a question in my Facebook community. If you're not in there yet, go join us. It's called Conquer the Food Fight. Amazing group of people. And I explained that it's important that we know not just where we don't want to be, meaning maybe we don't want to weigh this much, we don't want to feel tired all the time, we don't want to feel like it's so hard. We need to know more than just where we don't want to be. We need to know where we do want to be, right? So I asked, what do you want your relationship with food to look and feel like? And I think I got about 300 responses, right? Amazing. And as I was reading through them, I read every single one. As I was reading through them, I noticed a theme, a big, glaring theme. And that theme was this desire to be able to control what I eat instead of the food being in control of me, right? Eating for fuel instead of feelings. Eating what my body needs instead of what my body wants. Eating to live instead of living to eat. Number of people said that. And so it was this whole notion that we don't want to be obsessed with food all the time. We want to be able to just eat to fuel and nourish our bodies instead of as a way to manage feelings, or as one of my students once said, as a therapist. We don't want to use food as a therapist anymore, right? We want to be able to just have it be easy. We want to feel free. We want to just be able to eat to fuel our bodies and not feel like food has this control over us, right? We want to eat to live instead of living to eat. Fantastic. I love it, right? I love it because that's really what I teach. It's really what I do. And it was fascinating to see this theme come up again and again when I posted that question. So let's talk about this, right? Why is this so hard? Why don't we simply eat to fuel our bodies, right? Why don't we just eat the foods that our body really needs to give us the calories and the nutrients that we really need to fuel ourselves and fuel the things we want to do in the world, instead of eating just all the things we're craving and all the things we want and using food as a way to reward ourselves, or because we just, as a way to manage our feelings, to make ourselves feel better, or like, I deserve it, these kinds of things, right? Why don't we just stay on track with doing what we know we should do, eating what we know we should eat? Why don't we just stay on track? Why don't we just do it, right? Why is it so hard? Why do we keep getting pulled off course? Why do we keep sabotaging ourselves? That's really the question, right? Love it. Here's why. I want to introduce you to a word. I want to introduce you to a concept, to a phenomenon. It is called resistance. Now, I did not come up with the notion of resistance. I believe it was originally coined by Steven Pressfield, who has written a number of books. His focus is mostly on creative endeavors, right? So people who want to write, people who want to paint, people who want to dance. But he talks about this notion, this force in the universe that he calls resistance. And as soon as I read this many, many years ago, I just knew that was exactly what was keeping me stuck. Now, again, I see this through a different lens, being around our relationship with food, because that's what I study and that's what I do and that's what I teach, and that's what I've been obsessed with changing for myself. So when I heard about resistance, what I knew instantly is that resistance, it is what is so often behind us sabotaging ourselves. Okay. And what is resistance? Resistance is really this force that seeks to stop you from changing, stop us from changing, all of us. Resistance is the thing that wants to just keep you stuck, keep you doing what you've been doing, right? Its sole mission is to keep things as they are. Keep things as they are. Now, from a neuroscience perspective, Pressfield doesn't talk about this, but what I know from a neuroscience perspective is that your brain loves the familiar. Your brain loves to do what's familiar, even if it causes you pain, because for your brain, familiar equals safe. That's why That's why this part of your brain, this force of resistance wants to prevent you from changing, wants to keep you from doing the same, wants to keep you doing the same thing. Okay, that's what resistance is all about. And it's because your brain loves the familiar. So how does this show up in terms of our relationship with food? Well, resistance is the thing that's telling you that it's too hard. It's too complicated. It's not the right time. I don't have time to do all these things. This isn't the right approach. Maybe I should look for something else. I heard my sister-in-law was doing keto, or I heard my friend at work was doing low sugar, or I heard that my aunt went vegan. Like, maybe this isn't what I'm doing isn't the right approach. I should try something new. Or this isn't working for me. Like this isn't working. I'm having no success, right? This is resistance speaking to you. This is the language of resistance. This is resistance sending you messages to keep you from changing, to keep you doing the same thing, to send you back to your old habits that are familiar, right? Because that's what resistance likes. That's what your brain likes. So resistance is telling you it's too hard. I don't have enough time. It's too complicated. I don't think this is the right thing. This isn't working for me. I have too much going on right now. Maybe I'll try this another time, right? So resistance is also what's telling you, what the heck? I already ruined my diet by eating that thing. I might as well just eat all the things, right? I'm going to fail anyway. I might as well just enjoy it. That's resistance. Resistance is telling you, well, this is a special occasion, right? I want to enjoy myself. I want to have the cake and the champagne and the calamari and the pizza, right? It's a special occasion. How often does this happen? I should treat myself. That's resistance. Resistance is telling you, you deserve this treat. After the day you've had, after the week you've had, so much going on, people expecting so much of you, you're so tired, you've given so much, you deserve this treat. That's resistance, right? Resistance is, you've got so much going on right now. This isn't a good time, right? It's not a good time to make changes when you've got so much going on. We'll focus on this next month, next week, in the spring, on Monday, after the wedding, after the vacation, right? That's when we'll do this. That's resistance, you guys. That is how resistance speaks to you. That is the force of resistance. And again, what resistance seeks to do is prevent you from changing, because your brain loves the familiar, because the familiar equals safety. That's all that's going on. All right. So when you're struggling to eat to live instead of living to eat, or when you feel powerless against foods, you feel like you want to stay on track, you wish it was just easier to stay on track and eat what you know you should eat, it's resistance that is trying to stop you. All right. So that's what's going on. Now, how do we stop it? What do we do? How do we beat resistance? How do we wrestle this thing to the ground? A couple things, 3 things actually. First, you just become aware of it. All right. Now that you've heard me explain this, I'm hoping that you will be on the lookout for resistance. You will identify it when you see it. You will call it out by name. You will say, okay, wait, this is resistance. I know this feels like a very rational argument. I know I have a lot of evidence for this and it makes a lot of sense, but that's how resistance works. So I want you to notice it. I want you to name it. I want you to call it out. I want you to say, this is resistance. I see you. I see you, resistance. Okay, so that's number 1. Second, I'm afraid it's not going anywhere. All right. Again, resistance is wired into your brain. It's not like a universe. It's not something out there. It's something in here. Resistance is your brain trying to keep you doing the same things. So it's not going anywhere. You're going to have to just invite it along for the ride. Okay. You're going to have to invite it along for the ride. But what you can do is you get to tell resistance where it sits in the car, right? So resistance wants to drive the car. Resistance wants to decide, like, you think you're going to health and wellness and feeling good and eating foods that only nourish you? Nope. We're going over here to cookies and ice cream because that's what's familiar on the couch in front of Netflix. So you can't get resistance out of the car, but you can tell resistance where to sit in the car. And resistance does not get to sit in the driver's seat. All right. If any of you have read Elizabeth Gilbert's excellent book, Big Magic, she talks about something similar to this. I don't think she calls it resistance, but she talks about this idea of sort of this force that tries to stop us. I think I think maybe she talks about it as judgment or doubt. I'm not entirely sure. But she has a great letter sort of that she writes to it and explains that I understand, I'm going over here. I want to write this book, or I want to try something new, or I want to put myself out there. And I understand that resistance, judgment, doubt, all those things. I understand that you're coming along for the ride. But this is how it's going to go down, right? You're not driving. You don't even get to touch the radio. You don't get to look at the map or give suggestions about direction, right? You can sit in the passenger seat or in the back and you can chatter away and you can tell me all the reasons why I can't do it, why I shouldn't do it, why it's not going to work for me, why I'm for sure going to fail. You can chatter away, but that's all you get to do. Sit in the back seat and chatter away, right? I'm going to drive the car and we're going in a different direction, right? So you have to invite it along for the ride. And then finally, celebrate when you do make a better choice. Very often I see people, they'll say, oh, I went to this, I went to my family reunion and there was all of this food and I told myself I shouldn't eat any of it, but then I ended up having two chicken wings. And so obviously I'm just a failure. And what I want to say is no, that's a huge win, right? I mean, think of all the foods that were there that you said no to, right? Think of all the other chicken wings that you didn't eat. This is a big win. And we have to start reframing that and really embracing and celebrating our wins, because that's how over time you get to train your brain to a new normal, right? So your brain wants to sit on the couch binging on ice cream because it's familiar and that feels safe. But if you show your brain that more positive choices, different choices, yes, they're different. Yes, they're unfamiliar, but they can feel great too. They can also feel wonderful and exciting and safe. This is how over time you eventually retrain your brain. You guys know I talk a lot about retraining, reprogramming, rewiring your brain. This is how you do that. This is one of those tools. So celebrate your successes. Really notice when you've made a great choice and sit in it. Feel how good it feels to make that choice. This is how we keep resistance at bay, right? We train our brains to love making the healthy choices, to see that as a reward, as exciting, as the new familiar, as the new safe. And that's how those choices start to become more automatic and more natural. All right? You can do this, right? It's just resistance. It's just this force. It's a force, feels like a force in the universe, but it's really from in here. You can do this. You can do hard things. Notice resistance, label it, name it, call it out. Invite it along for the ride, but make sure you tell it where it's going to sit in the car. And celebrate your wins, celebrate your successes, so that you, over time, slowly train your brain to see those new choices, those healthier behaviors, as your new normal, as the new familiar, as the new safe. That's how, over time, you reprogram that old operating system. All right? Sound good? Let me know what you think. Post in the comments. I would love to hear what you think about this. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to my channel so that you can get new updates and hear about new videos when they come out each week. Talk to you soon, guys. Bye.